I like the dog. It's friendly.
Hello and welcome back to my channel Box Office Poison. If you're new here, my name is Moxie McMurder and today I want to talk about a Shirley MacLaine film I had honestly never heard of before last week. Clearly, I've been living under a rock because despite being a fan of just about everyone involved, I had never heard of Billy Wilder's 1963 film Irma La Douce. Starring Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine, this film is an adaptation of the 1956 French musical of the same name. I'm not entirely sure what decade this film is set in, whether it's the 50s or 60s, but being made in 1963, you can really see the 60s influence in the hair and makeup and the use of bold colour in the costumes and sets. I think it's interesting that the film isn't a musical, given that it's based on one and that musicals were still popular in the 60s. But I also think it's interesting because often in musicals, the songs are what give the audience an insight into the character's mind. And so I wonder if any of the lyrics from the musical made it into the script for the motion picture, but I couldn't find any information on that. If you happen to know anything about the musical, please do leave a comment below, because that's something I'm quite interested in, and like I say, I couldn't find any information on it, so. This French sex farce concerns a naive policeman called Nestor Patou, played by Jack Lemmon. He falls in love with the titular character Irma, played by Shirley MacLaine, who's a sex worker. When Nestor starts a relationship with Irma, he doesn't want her seeing other men. So, eventually, he creates an alter ego, a wealthy Englishman called Lord X.
All right, let's hear it again.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
No, through the nose.
The rain in Spain.
And show me some teeth.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
By George, you haven't got it.
I haven't.
Well,
Who can pay her enough so that he will be her only customer, thus keeping her off the street. There are lots of twists and turns as this story plays out, and I don't want to spoil the whole plot of the film for you. So let's talk about some of the things that make this film worth seeking out. Writer and director Billy Wilder had worked with Jack Lemmon in Some Like It Hot in 1959, and both Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment in 1960. These previous relationships lead to an effortless quality on screen in Irma La Douce, which is almost a detriment because while everyone is giving a good performance, for me personally, I find there's a little bit of a lack of chemistry between Irma and Nestor. The role of Irma was originally planned for Marilyn Monroe, but her death in 1962 meant they had to recast. I can imagine Marilyn in the role, but I can't help but think that Shirley MacLaine was probably a better fit for the role, because she has an edge.
I am pleasant. Damn it! I just saw Drum Eating in this morning at the Piggly Wiggly, and I smiled at the son of a bitch, for I could help myself.
That Marilyn just didn't have. The role of Moustache, the local bar owner who's held every job under the sun, was meant for Charles Laughton, which would have been perfect casting, but as it was, he also died in 1962.
Talk about sad.
And so Lou Jacoby was cast. As for the content of the film, and yes, it's a comedy made in 1963, so I wasn't expecting a nuanced take on sex work or anything, but I was surprised at how explicit the film is in terms of what Irma does for a living. For 1963, it's really quite progressive to talk about sex work in this way, and to show the hypocrisy involved with police corruption when it's revealed that not only do the cops turn a blind eye to these ladies of the evening, but some of the cops are the women's clients, something which Nestor is truly shocked at. The film makes sex work seem fairly pleasant. The customers treat her well, and only her pimp, or manager, is violent towards her. Although it's interesting to me that it's actually Nestor who later hits Irma, but we'll get into that later. I believe this is Billy Wilder's first colour film, and he makes great use of colour throughout the film, but no more so than in Irma's costume and apartment. Costume designer Aura Kelly created some great costumes for this film, and when it comes to Irma's love of green, its use is interesting. The psychology of colour in film is one that's fairly open to interpretation, but Irma's signature green is a colour that suggests healing, nature, good luck, youth, vigour, generosity and fertility. But it's also a colour that can suggest jealousy, inexperience and envy. And all of these qualities can be attributed to Irma. Her job...
This isn't just a job, it's a
profession, is one associated with youth, vigour and fertility. Her temperament is one of healing and generosity. Even the last three qualities I mentioned can be attributed to her. Her inexperience with genuine love and affection, and her jealousy when she thinks Nestor's been seeing another woman. Irma La Douce wasn't quite what I was expecting going into it, but while there are some negatives, overall, I'm really glad I gave it a watch. To be honest, the biggest gripe I have with the film is that it's a little too long for what it is. The writing is so tight and sharp, but the film feels a little bloated by the end. As mentioned before, I also have a problem with it being Nestor who hits Irma towards the end of the film. While I appreciate it was made in a different time and society was different and blah 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 blah, I just think it was totally unnecessary and it leaves an indelible mark against his character that I just can't forget. But really, that's about it in terms of what I didn't like about the film. While this certainly isn't my favourite Shirley MacLaine film, it's not even my favourite 60s Shirley MacLaine film. That would be What a Way to Go. And it's not my favourite Jack Lemmon film. That would be The Odd Couple. And it's not my favourite Billy Wilder film. That would be Sunset Boulevard. But Irma La Douce is still worth a watch, because not only is it really funny, especially the whole Lord X subplot, which includes Jack Lemmon sporting a rather wonderful British accent.
Got the time, mister?
Indeed, but not the inclination.
But the set design and costumes, the colourful characters, all come together to really make the dialogue sing. And as I said, I don't really buy into a romantic relationship between the two leads, but I do think they bounce off each other really well. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this film and what you thought of it. I'm nosy and I want to know. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new content. If you really enjoyed this video and you'd like to help support my channel, you can buy me a coffee. I'll leave a link to my Ko-fi and PayPal accounts in the description box below. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that, and caffeine hits are always appreciated. Have a great day, stay hydrated, but more importantly, stay spooky.